Now you go while I'm eating.
You said
Now
give
you
me the
go.
countdown. I didn't think you
Oh
were
my
gonna throw
god.
chips in your mouth.
Hello, thanks Carl for that. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special Geek First review. I am the number one Marshaniel Rowe fanboy,
Wow, that's a
Trasnell.
more mouthful than those chips.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
tough.
I am. We are all the Republic. Taylor Field.
Man, if you were to take a shot every time they said it in the book, I'd be
That's what I
plastered.
was thinking too. Oh my
Like it's not a
god.
big spoiler, but literally one of the last lines of this book is "We are the." Oh my god. So, oh god. As you can see, I'm not ready here. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can, I guess, see if you're watching on the video side, there's this starting soon. But this was the reason this stream's not live is because on my work schedule is like, oh, when are we gonna do this? We don't know. So I wasn't gonna promote anytime because we didn't know. So me and Taylor are just what we do is for a little insider, we stream to the YouTube privately. So then we don't gotta upload a video because video sometimes can take like hours to upload. So it saves us that time. But I thought because it was just him and I and it was private, he didn't need to give me the countdown and the starting soon was there. But I had tried to start this podcast. Oh man, what the fuck is this? I got a big hole in my jeans. I've been working
Is
like what
feeling
the
around your pants, feeling your legs, feeling around for some holes in your pants.
holy shit, that's a big hole. Like look at this.
Where is it? Is it like where your ass is? What are you doing? Are you? I don't know where it is. It's either on your leg or it's on your ass.
It's like hang on. This is how I die.
This is what you get at almost 12 o'clock at night.
I'm gonna stop because I'm gonna fall and eat shit. It's like mass. It's like right by. It's not the crotch area, but it's like the crevice. You know, like the sides of it and everything like that.
Yeah,
But I've been
up the
working in these
ass,
jeans
right?
all day. No, not up the ass. There's like the crotch, and then there's the sides. Anyways, already some. I tuned in for Star Wars, and they're talking about holes in jeans and start times. But anyways, yeah. So I didn't know. I thought we'd just be going. So I was doing my whole intro, everything like that. And Taylor's like, whoa, whoa, I'm not ready. And now, yeah, I've been working with these holes in my pants. Like, I think this happened tonight, and I worked like a nice 8-hour shift. So that's cool. So, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen. So this is off to a great start. We are here to review Star Wars: The High Republic. What we're going to do is we're going to give our overall thoughts, just like a movie, TV show, and then we'll get into it. This is Taylor's Eyes only second Star Wars book review, so you can go check out what we did Master and Apprentice. Absolutely love that book. So
This is
Taylor, before we,
technically my third book review on Geek
I
First.
said R though, R
Oh,
like you and I
R.
together.
Oh,
Don't be
yes.
so selfish. So where can they find us? Where can they find that book review on the interwebs?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. Geekverse.ca is our home base, which has the links to all of our other sites and our it's podcatcher, I believe, is the term. I really like that term. It's a good term. All the podcatcher sources you can find us available at. But specifically, check us out on our social media because on Twitter you can find us at Geekversecast, but on our Facebook, Geekverse on Facebook, we have our Marvel Legacy poll that's popping off right now. And this is a real doozy because this is in honor and celebration of WandaVision, which is debuting this week, I can say now, this
A week,
upcoming Friday.
less than a week,
Yeah,
less than a
less
week
than a
when we're
week.
recording this.
We're getting 2 episodes debuting, so that's going to be super exciting. But yeah, check us out on Facebook because you can vote for your favorite legacy character. So that's basically all the Marvel characters that were not a part of the MCU, all pre-MCU stuff. So it's super, super hype. I think the round right now, if you were tuning in literally the day that this drops, it's Doctor Doom from 2005, Fantastic Four versus Dracula from Blade Trinity. So heck of
Yeah.
a matchup.
As someone said in our comments, they said just Red Groot or something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I sent you a
Oh
photo. Could you
God.
please add that to the stream so now people know what they're looking at? You don't gotta have that up there the whole time, but yeah, congratulations to your boy Carter
I
Slade
told
winning.
you, one last ride. That's
I
all it
was
needs.
surprised that honestly, at first it was close because it was like 24-16 when I went to bed, and then all of a sudden you must have paid some people to hack it because then when I woke up it was like 40 to some. I was like, what happened overnight? But ladies and gentlemen, this just shows how much people really hate Fan Forest Stick. Like that thing lost to Carter Slade, Sam Elliott's Ghost Rider. they hate that movie. Everyone hates that movie so much. So yeah, if you want to see on the video version, Taylor's putting a hole in my pants. It's actually 2 holes. Did you see that, Taylor? 2 holes.
I see. Yeah, 2 holes. That's
Yeah.
like okay. We're putting it right front and center for the
And if
fans.
someone can guess what animal is what is on my boxers, I will give them a shout out on the first WandaVision review. So you got a week. Taylor, do you know what that animal is or what it is?
There's an animal on that.
You get one guess. You can get one guess after I do these plugs, and then you come back to it. So yeah, like Taylor was talking about, WandaVision is next week, so we're going to be reviewing every single episode. I can't wait because next week I work at 4:30 a.m. on the Friday, and now we have 2 episodes of WandaVision. So I can't wait to go to bed at like 1:30 in the morning, and then wake up at 4 a.m. for my job. I can't wait, but I'm doing it because I'm a glutton for punishment. I need to see it. But we'll be reviewing every single week all these episodes like we did with Mando and like we're going to do with every other Marvel Disney Snyder Cut show this year. So it's going to be tons of fun. Check, we just dropped our WandaVision predictions. It's almost 2 hours. It's tons of fun. Really good stuff there. We dropped this review. Me and Greg just did a Batman You Complete Me on the Keaton Byrne era. The bloopers is coming, but thanks to you fans and our new gear, lots of the stuff is at high 720 or 1080. It's taking a lot longer to process, and I don't like to rush them. There's even then I've been listening to a few casts, got a couple in there, so it's rounding out about an hour, but it's a good one. It's tons of fun, so that'll be dropping next week. And then Taylor, I haven't even ran this by you, but live on cast, if we have time next week or even the next few weeks, what I want to do is I want to do a fan cast of this book, like if it were to be a movie, TV show, I have to put actors to the roles.
Oh yes.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got some stuff popping, just tons of stuff. The next After 9 is January 23rd. That's the Patreon call-in show. You join phase 2 and you get to call in, join us. We have tons of fun. They're my favorite cast to do this month, like every month. We have such a good time with everybody. And yeah, we just did Scott Pilgrim watch along with Hansi, who's one of our patrons. That was tons of fun, except Taylor had a gear meltdown, so that was fun. You can watch Taylor's hopes and dreams die on air. But like I said, the biggest thing is support us. Either subscribe to any of your podcatchers or join us on Patreon. One, that helps us grow, but you just get a bunch of benefits. There's a bunch of other tiers, like I said, with tons of different benefits and things like that you can request, or you can watch along, or just go to Patreon and there's tons of stuff. You get things ad-free, most importantly, early and exclusive episodes. We haven't decided what our exclusive episode is this month, but you'll be getting one, so we'll figure that out. Taylor, I think it is time to talk about High Republic, unless there's anything I'm missing.
I'm gonna take a guess that it is a zebra on your underwear.
Wrong. I'll tell you off air, but I don't want to get the rest of the people. So, Taylor Field, I'm going to start with you. We have been waiting quite a while because they announced sometime last year that they're going to be doing this whole new series called The High Republic, and it was going to be almost a mini connected universe, which is kind of funny now that we got Mandalorian. It seems like it's not as important. That's no shot of the book, but I'm just saying before, it's like, wow, we're finally getting Star Wars that's connected with everything. And now Mandalorian's like, look at our finale. And it's like, okay, so we're getting that all over. But this was like, okay, we're doing something connected with a bunch of great writers. We're doing it comic books. And they said maybe shows down the line. We already know there is a show coming in, the Acolyte books, everything like that. So this is the start of it all. This was written by Charles Soule, who I've not read any of his books. He did Aftermath and a few other ones, but all the books he's done I've heard are like highly regarded. So obviously a big way to start off. And yeah, this book was delayed a few times, obviously because of COVID, but now it's here. Taylor, what are your non-spoiler thoughts? How do you think this kicked off the High Republic era?
It's tough because when you're tackling any new major story or era, it's tricky. And I get a lot of novels have to have that balance of stuff that you really really like, and then there's going to be stuff that you don't like, but you got to get through it to get to the juicy stuff. And that's like my Thrawn novels. There's some things like that are like, okay, I'm not really jiving with this, but then there's the good stuff. I got to get through that iffy stuff to get to the really good content. Now this book, it's tricky because, and I don't consider this spoilers at all, but again, the first part was just so poorly done, and it really pulled me out, and I was not looking forward. The first like 6 hours I was thinking like, God, I don't know where this is going, and I'm not happy about this, but
Yeah.
I it's an audiobook, so I'm just going to keep going through it, obviously, because it's easy to just pop on while you're working. So when it hit that around like 7/8 hour, it started to turn around. And then when it got to the part, like the third part, the second part was great. And the third part, I re-listened to the third part again, actually, the whole like 5 hour mark of that, because it was just so good. It built up so well, and it just set the stage. And again, I understand that when you're starting a new era and you're starting a new storyline, this is that book, that gateway into this whole new era of the High
Tons of
Republic.
setup.
Tons of setup. So I
Yeah.
understand that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of weight, and you know, as badly done for a start as it was, because it was jumping everywhere. But
Hmm.
they got through it. We got through it, and now we can put that behind us. And now we're into some good, juicy stuff with some really well developed characters and a really awesome storyline. And I'm super excited for that second book of this trilogy, which I'm pretty sure it's a trilogy. So it'll be.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped for it. And
February, written by our girl Claudia Gray. So
Claudia
I'm,
Gray, yeah.
giving us the great Rael Averron. So I'm so ready for that. But okay, so I have a very similar path as far as Taylor, except I agree with them completely on part one. I actually ended up liking part two more than part three, but not in a way that part three was like lower. Just there's, I guess, lots of movement in part two that I really liked because part three. Well, okay, I won't say that. There's just some stuff in part three that part two appealed to me and what I liked a bit more as far as Star Wars. But this book is, I think it's a really good, if not I'd say, I'll say it's a great start to what this is. I'm with Taylor that the I'll say completely part one because I don't even want to put hours. I think it's part one, and that whole setup to this world, I was not digging it. I was always gonna review it because I told Taylor I would, and I didn't want to leave him hanging. And I already got this book, so I'm like, okay. But I was like, if I wasn't doing this review, I'd be out. I really would because the best way I compare, and I'm not going to use any spoilers, but the best way I compare it is if you were to watch Avengers Age of Ultron and you've seen no Marvel movies, and that opening scene is when they're attacking like Baron, I don't know, Baron von Strucker's base, and you're seeing all these characters quickly, and they're like, "This is the staff. These are the twins. Here's Hulk," and you're like, "I have no idea what's going on." That's what the beginning of this book was. It was literally like even Avengers, which if you haven't seen the other movies, it's like here's our like a 5 minutes with Iron Man. This is what he's like, and the book tries to do that, but I think it's just the pacing of meeting all these characters and so many. If you look at Avengers, it's like we're meeting five. This was like here's your 8 Jedi, and here's a pilot, and here's the bad guys, and it was like, oh my goodness, it was way too much. And because I forgot to shout this out, but check out our podcast network, 7 days a week, 10 shows. Katie and her crew are going to review this book as well. And she's read more Star Wars books than me. She's more on like your side, Taylor. You guys read all the Thrawns and everything like that. And she was like, oh, like Star Wars books, lots of them, they really start slow, so just stick with it. But that wasn't my problem. It wasn't that it was slow. It was just that I found it not confused in the sense I didn't know what was going on, just that I thought they were introducing way too much way too quickly. And it wasn't even like you were talking about how they got to set up the world. They do, but that's what frustrated me in part two. It seemed like they kind of had a formula of how we could go through all the storylines, and it like flowed really well. Where in part one it didn't. They should have. I'd say in part two they take more of a Game of Thrones approach, where it's like we're following these 6 storylines, and then here they are separately.
Mm-hmm.
But in part one, it was all those storylines mashed together. But I felt like this was the opening for a second book, and that's where it's like, okay, I know all these people. So I think that took me a while not to get into it, and I also just think that the actual opening didn't need to be like, I'm happy the book was, I think it was it was 13 hours, right? For
Yeah.
an audiobook.
Yeah.
And it was 43 chapters. But even then, I don't think part one needed to be, I think it was almost like 19, 20 chapters. I don't think it needed to be this whole like incident that happens. I feel like it went on for quite a while, you know?
Oh, it did. Like they set it up to be like when the incident was being wrapped up, like I felt like, okay, like this could be like the end of the book. But like that, like just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying there, like when it was just pulling in all these different characters, and without spoiling it again, that first probably like I guess the first 2 chapters, they were setting up all these characters. Like, okay, I got to get to know these characters. These are gonna be like the main characters of the story. Which of course you know what happens, and it's like, okay, no, we're just gonna disregard that and go with the events that follow.
And that's not even a spoiler. Like, it's not saying someone dies. There's literally just some characters introduced that you get a scene with, and maybe or two, and then you don't get them the rest of the book. And I think that's the tough thing of like they are setting up this universe, so it's like you want to set up all these Jedi. So when you get a comic book, when you get another book, it's like I know this character, but at the same point, you go, were they really necessary for this book? And that's where I'll say some of the more problems before I get to the pros, because I do have tons of pros. I think it was too much too fast at the beginning part, and I think the middle and the end do a good job of focusing on the core characters of these stories. I think you could introduce some of these characters we met later on, and I think there's some of them that you could intertwine their story, and even meeting them, it's strange because it kind of gets into like we'll get into spoilers, but lots of stuff I feels like kind of happens like coincidence. And the other thing that I didn't like until kind of the second half of the second half was that it felt identical to Master and Apprentice, but like you and I talked about, like a lesser version. It's literally, well, I'll wait till spoilers, but like the first half of that book is like literally the first half of this book, like the same events. But the problem is like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan go on this mission in that book, and it's like 3 chapters, and we're over with it really quick and done. This is literally 19 chapters, and it's like I did not need this whole incident to be, as big. I think, and Taylor always disagrees with me with this. I think sometimes there's a few Earth words and Earth like slang and term that I don't like in Star Wars, and they use. It's just kind of, it all comes down to your verisimilitude, and it comes down to like, what do you believe in the world works for you, and what makes, and it feels a weird thing because it's like, but what makes you feel like this is Star Wars? It's the same way as you liking somebody. Sometimes you just don't know what it is. You just do. And that's why it was Star Wars, where it's something like Solo for me doesn't really feel like Star Wars, where Force Awakens feels nothing but Star Wars. So that's where sometimes it broke that a little bit. It's like a minor spoiler, but at one point they're talking about like a Jedi love novel, and I was like, I don't know. This is just like, it just, and
you
it
like
almost
your
makes,
Jedi love stuff, so
well, and they almost like made some like fourth wall kind of like breaking to that, like about like other books almost. Like it felt like there's a little like we get it, this is a book, and there's some complaints about books and fandom and stuff. Is like, all right, I don't know if I need that in my Star Wars. And there's just certain swear words where I go, okay. Other than that, I'm trying to think. So yeah, beginning was messy, too many characters, too many plot lines for the most part, but I think they did a good job wrapping it up. But now the pros. So I think all the main characters, we'll talk about them, the main ones, I think they did a really good job with them all. Even characters that I worried, hey, this person might be annoying, ended up really liking. And I think they do a good job of, like I said, the world building. The setup wasn't that great, but once we get to the actual world, it's a good thing. It feels like it's new in its own, but it's still pulling stuff from the past that we know, or I guess it's like the future in their tent. So like lots of prequel stuff, lots of shoutouts, but lots of stuff where it's like, I know this planet and I feel already familiar and I can picture this planet, which is good. I think as far as, I didn't like some of the slang, but I think as far as the dialogue and like conversations character have are very fleshed out. And the biggest surprise for me was the villains. And if you know me, you're probably like, oh, of course Travis likes the villains. But for me, it's like a villain or an antagonist is sometimes like the make or break of a story. And I remember when they pitched it and they're like, oh, it's these like Viking sort of guys. And I was like, I don't buy that the Jedi at their height could be like, these guys would be trouble at all, And I'd be like, why? It's just like just some guys with knives and swords and some guns. But we'll get into that spoilers, but there's a few things they do that make them actual threats, and I really liked all that stuff. And I like that they kept some of that back in the public, because it's like, okay, like reading about that. And I think the Nihil are really good, because you can compare them to Vikings. I compare them to, I'm not sure if you've seen them, but is the Mad Max kind of people, as far as like, yeah, that sort of like very culty, very, like heavy metal-ish, but just very powerful and dangerous and kind of scary at times. And my biggest thing is like, I can't put him up at number 1, obviously. I'm not even gonna put him at number 2, but I'm already probably close to saying like Marshawn Rowe is probably like in the top 3 for my favorite Star Wars villains. He was so good, and we'll get into it, but he was a character that was just like a roller coaster.
Oh my God.
Taylor's door.
The freaking ghosts. Keep talking.
Is that just a draft, or is that the cat?
No, that was Madison.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Yeah. But Marshawn Rowe is a character that, like, I'm going to save all my descriptor words for spoilers because I don't want to get into it, but he's an interesting character, and that's what I love. As far as, I've been watching Lord of the Rings again recently, and Boromir is not my favorite character of Lord of the Rings, but I find him the most interesting, and that's what I found about Marshawn Rowe, is just each time we met him, it felt important, and it felt like we were pulling away little layers of who he is and what his mission is. And again, with the Nile, they did a really good job. There's some character that kind of feels like a Bane-like presence. They did a good job of, the Nile has like multiple kind of facets and villains, and they did a good job of making them feel very different. There's one in particular that feels like very stereotypical and just very like, okay, this is kind of cheesy, but it kind of works for the most part. So Taylor, if you are back, I am ready to move on to spoilers. The last thing I'll say is I think I would. So, like, as far as recommendation, if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan, you're probably already reading this. If you're not, I think it's definitely worth to check it out. And as far as a new Star Wars fan, I would definitely feel this is a good obviously it is literally the starting off point, but I think this is, if you read this book, if you listen to this book and you don't like it, then it's like, okay, maybe this universe isn't for you. I think we're scratching an itch as far as it is still somewhat connected to Star Wars, but it's kind of, it's not Old Republic, but it's like it is something new and fresh. So I do like that. And I think there is enough new and fresh in this universe to justify that. Of course, I still want Old Republic one day, but this just feels like, okay, even though Yoda's, mentioned and talked about in the book, it's like we're still far away where it's like, okay, we can disconnect and we don't got to worry about anything happening. So Taylor, anything else?
No, I'm ready to get into spoilers. I got an immediate spoilers question for you when we hit it.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take our first ad break, and then we're going to be back from spoiler, or we're going to be back, and then we're going right into spoilers. So, if you haven't read it, you're not far enough into it, because we're not going to go like part by part. We're just going to go wherever, free flowing dialogue. So, right now, ad break is coming, then we're going to spoilers. All right, Taylor, we're back. We're into spoilers. So everyone's been warned. What is your immediate spoilers question?
Okay, so I want you to name the 3 Jedi from the Phantom Menace that appear in this movie.
No idea.
Well, I know you know one of them.
Well, Yoda. Yeah, I didn't catch, because when we got to the Jedi Council, I was listening for the names, and I was like, I'm sure they dropped them there, but I don't remember their names.
The other Jedi was one that I mentioned to you in Kirklin about surviving Jedi that could have encountered Grogu.
Right.
You remember his name?
No, but now I remember the look of him.
I'm popping him up on the stream for the people to see if you're visually tuning in. Alpo Rancisis.
Alpo Rancisis, this is, of course, classic. And how come he's not dead?
Well, I'm assuming his species can live probably like a couple hundred years, like Chewbacca, like Wookiees can.
And he just survived Order 66?
Well, they didn't show him die in Order 66. I don't think they showed his death, but he is in the Clone Wars as well, so he was alive during that time period. He didn't disappear like Yaddle. And then the third one is Yariel Poof. And he's like the Kaminoan-looking guy. He's got 4 arms and a long neck. And,
I remember.
They don't confirm how he dies either.
He's pretty sassy in the movies, if I recall. So,
well, I don't even think he even talks in the movies.
I think no. I thought he had one. I swear he had one line of dialogue in one of the movies, but maybe I'm wrong. They're classic characters. I don't know how I'm forgetting this.
The classic, all right. The interesting thing about these Jedi too is like this is just like a really short segment anyways here, but I mean quickly, like to cover all 3. Yoda, I mean they really just like, not that I needed to focus on him, but it was like, oh, Yoda is on sabbatical right now. Oh, at the end of the book it's like, oh, you didn't say anything. Your mic, there you go, you're back.
Okay, I got that new cord and I have to replace it. No, I thought that was perfect for Yoda. Like they mentioned he's around, but because now they can save him for if he. And this is what the other thing, I guess, because there might be people just listening along if they didn't read the book. Yoda's mentioned several times, but he's off doing council business, which is like, what is that council business? I don't know if that is just a write-off to like whatever, or if that sets up something separate for him, whether that is to tie into this main story, or like let's say they do eventually beat the Nihil, Yoda's looking into something else already, right? So I thought that was perfect because now we're set up for a hype moment where he's going to have his Luke Skywalker Mando moment. He's going to come and save the day. I kid you not, it's going to happen.
That'll be super good too. And then Yariel Poof, Alpo Rancisis, like they were interesting characters because Alpo was like they were just kind of emphasizing like the political kind of aspect of the Jedi joining them, and it was cool because you get that little debate of the Jedi Council saying, should we intervene and actually fight with the Republic and go against the Nihil, and it bites them in the ass. Boy, does it ever. Like, I can't tell you how many Jedi die in this book. There's probably at least like 100 that die.
Well, it doesn't, right? Because it does in the long run. But as of right now, they feel that they lost some Jedi, but they definitely defeated the Nihil, right? Or like some of them feel like the Nihil's gone. Obviously, that's not the case. But I think I like that because this is showing like they're not as arrogant as lost as they are in the prequels yet. Because it feels like they're still like, in the prequels and Clone Wars, they talk about like, should we do this? But by the time Clone Wars hits, they're just all over. They're not even discussing this. Like, we're going into battle. So to me, this shows that there's a clear divide in the Jedi now. It's like, so they've been on top for quite a while. They even mentioned like there's been they don't even say the words dark side, but they allude to like there's been nothing.
Well, they confirm the Sith War, which is pretty cool in this.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they did say that because they're talking, but they kind of just hinted that like it's been a while since we've seen anything. Not the same thing as like the prequels, but it's been a while before we've had to worry, and we've been on top for a while. But then other Jedi are like, well, that could be the worst thing because we might not be on our toes and stuff like that, and we might get complacent. And that's only like hinted at, and that's nice because that's what they do end up becoming. They come complacent. They let Palpatine and Sheev and Darth Maul and Count Dooku. They let all this shit kind of happen. They let Anakin happen, to be honest. All this stuff happen, but it's still gonna. It's still they're still talking about should we battle? What is our cause? And it will be exciting to see. We'll get these 3 books, and then we'll get the show to kind of show like kind of the descent into that, and the complacency. I do wish though that, like, because we've talked about this before, that's my worry with Acolyte. I do wish that after reading this book, that the show was just further in the High Republic, like further back, because I would love it. Like, I honestly would have loved if here's this book, and we're literally just going to do the TV adaptation. I don't know why they don't do that in Star Wars yet. I don't know why they haven't done like what Marvel's done, where it's like they don't got to adapt it. Well, I guess that's the problem with it being canon. But even then, if they have to adapt it page by page, if people like it, I feel like they should just do it. I feel like they could go cast. That's why we're gonna do that cast. Like they go cast an R.R. Chris. They can go cast a Lazar. They can cast a Masharon Rowe. You know, it's just like so. That's my only worry is like. If we do the Acolyte, are we so near the end of the High Republic? It's not going to feel like this book, but I liked all the dynamics that they had with the Jedi, the Council, everything. I think they nailed that. And again, it just made me, I think Master and Apprentice did the same thing, but that's another hope it gave me for that show is like, I want to see Coruscant again. I want to see, like, sure, Naboo, I want to see it, but like Coruscant, like the fact that we didn't even get it in the sequels is super disappointing, you know? And like, I hope we get to see it again because it is such a great kind of touchstone. And I love that we went there so much.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was almost in episode 9, so close. But yeah, this again, like the locations of this planet, like I love what they did because we got Coruscant, we got Naboo, which was super cool. We had mentions to Alderaan. They mentioned a few planets. Eriadu, I don't think I've ever heard them mention Eriadu in any of the other the Star Wars films or anything like that. Eriadu, it was just super cool because that was a planet featured in a few Star Wars games that I played. But there were a few others, and I think they mentioned. Ilum as well when they go get the kyber crystals and such. So yeah, there is some great ties and connections because it pulls.
I swear they mentioned Hoth as well, like just not in going there, but just something being as cold as Hoth or snow like Hoth. I could be completely wrong, but I thought they said something like that as a descriptor. It was just in that, which is again, I want to say something about phones being so scared. We're talking about this, and then I got an email. Find out what happens in Star Wars: Light of Jedi from Audible. Like, keep listening. It's like. I've already listened to it, but yeah, no, there's tons of little good Easter eggs and some that I already missed, obviously, that you're going to point out. I'm excited to see, like, there's probably already, but I'm excited to see next week, like, the websites and all the little threads and whatnot, and, like, this is what's this, and this what's this. Star Wars theory be popping off and everything, so. So what do you want to talk about specifically next? Do you want to talk about, well, we should... I don't know. Let's talk about part 1 a little bit because we were so negative. We can talk about full spoilers now. So what happens is and this is the strange thing, but we kind of meet like a crew that's riding the ship, and the overall thing is, or one of the conflicts is in this story, and that's what part 1 is about, is like something collides with this ship, the legacy ship, and they don't know what it is. They don't know how it happened, and it's kind of crashing, and there's going to be an impact. And it just happens that all our main characters are around, and they can go help out and everything like that. So they're going to go, and what happened is we meet these captains, and then like each chapter, and even then, it sometimes isn't clear as that. Sometimes it's multiple characters within chapter, but it's like this person's going to the ship to help this person, and you're quickly like, here's Bell, and it's his master Totolone or whatever. And it's just Totolone. Like, I mean, whatever his name was, and they give like a quick dynamic and everything like that. I thought we met too many, which some people might disagree with, but that's fine. I think both things. We met too many Jedi at once, and I also think we didn't need to meet so many human characters at once either, because it's just like lots of them die, and I just felt like it should have just picked up. And I know I'm saying it was like Master Apprentice already, because literally it does this thing where Master Apprentice had a conflict, they go and get their mission, and then it's them on a ship for a while, and then they get to a planet. That's literally what happens here, is especially like this mission happens, Avar goes to Coruscant to get her mission, a bunch of Jedi are on a ship, and we have dialogue, and then they're spread out. And that's why I was like, they're literally I felt like it was like, okay, go do Master Apprentice, but not as good. So I was like, well, I'm not jiving with this, but So the beginning was just all these Jedi's ascending to Legacy to try and help out these people fix it. But I think it was just way too much, way too fast. And I feel like we could have just had it as Avar and Lazar, and then because the weird thing is we meet all these Jedi, right? What is the Wookiee's name?
I actually got that up right here. The Wookiee's name is Buryaga.
Yeah, Buryaga. So we meet him. Later on in the book, we get about 2 more scenes with him. That's it. And the thing is, I really like the scenes. There's a scene where he meets one of the kids whose parents died in the Legacy crash, and it's really, really good. It's like I honestly started to tear up when they did this scene, as far as it showed like how compassionate this Wookiee is. It was un-Jedi like and stuff like that, but he just cared about this kid. But the thing is, he's only in like these 2 more scenes, and that's it. So we didn't really need to beat him. Later on, what happens is our villains kind of go to this planet and they intersect with some Jedi. They intersect with these 2 Jedis named Bell and what is what's his
Loden.
action? Loden, not Total Loden. Loden. And Bell is like this kind of he's been an apprentice for a while, but he still feels like he's kind of like a rookie, and it kind of feels like he's very unconfident. And Loden is like an old wise, like Twi'lek is like, oh, like you'll figure it out and stuff like that. And the problem is, though, I have with them is later on when we meet them, they intersect with the main villains of the story. So we could have met them there. We didn't have to meet them in the opening chapter. We could have met them when we meet our villains later on. And then we have Avar and Lavar, who are they kind of made it seem like they were going to be the main characters, but they disappear a lot in the book. It's not a bad thing. I wouldn't say this character really has one main character other than, like, I'd hate to say it, I know I'm biased, but it's like Marshawn Rowe is like, he's not the main character because he's the antagonist, but like he has the most time out of all of them, because those other Jedis, they have to split up kind of screen time. But that was the thing. They met so many things, and I just thought that was kind of, like I said, it was exactly Age of Ultron. All these heroes, but he had no idea what was going on.
Well, in terms of main character, like for Jedi, I would definitely say Loden and Bell were 100% the main characters, like Jedi wise of the story. Like the other
They
ones were definitely
disappear though
there.
so much after part
Well,
one, though.
no, because after they were there for a little bit, then after part one, I feel like they took most of the story. Like when they were on their Jedi Outpost, and they kind of definitely in part three they got a huge part. Avar, I feel like, was definitely like displayed, but then again, her moments were literally only. I can't say plot armor, but it was just there to like boost the other Jedi just for the story's sake, because she was that link that could connect all their powers together, right? So literally, she was just brought in just to deal with the Tabana gas going into the sun, and then again at the end when they needed to fight the Nihil fleet, right?
Well, no, because what I'd say is part one happened, like at the end of part one and into part two, she's the one that goes to the Council of Coruscant to talk to him. And then also her and Lavar have that meeting with the Lightspeed people, right? So there's quite a few chapters where it's them, and then we get Bell and Lone. But I feel like it kind of goes back and forth. I always say this with characters, just hoping, but like, did Avar have like a kind of sense of battle meditation? Because I always thought that Rey was gonna maybe have that, and she didn't. But like that moment at the end when she's kind of sitting there listening to the voices, but it felt like you said she is linking them. To me, I would chalk that up to battle meditation in my mind. I know they might name it something else. They might not call it that because it's Knights of the Republic, but that's exactly what Bastila did, where she would sit down, and it wasn't the Force people, so that's what's different, but she would kind of link people together and raise them up and make them stronger to pursue and battle and to be better. And that's why I kind of felt she doesn't exactly do that, but like you said, she links them together. I don't know how much she strengthens them, but she does link them. So I
Well,
don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's some different meditation.
she definitely strengthens them, I'd say, because I mean they were
Yeah,
able to all the Jedi, like hundreds of them in that system, were able to use the Force to push that Tabana out of the way of trajectory of the
that's
sun.
true. Yeah,
But I think it's fair to call it battle or or what did you say, battle
it's
meditation?
battle
Battle
meditation. Yeah.
meditation, yeah, because I mean, obviously they're adapting things from this time period, and again, that was something I was reading into. These Jedi are they're like the equivalent to Twilight vampires, that they all have their own special abilities that they're like really prominent in.
Hmm.
So Avar has this rare ability where she can connect people through the Force and boost their strength. And I can't remember what the other Jedi have like in terms of like their powers and such, but
Well, Lavar's was it kind of well. I misunderstood this because they made it sound like he was the first one to do the mind trick, but then
mm,
Loden does it later on. Like at first, when they call it, they say it's a mind touch, but Lavar calls it a mind trick. So I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like this is the first guy to do it. This makes this guy semi-important. Now, somebody might be out there like, I don't need to see the first, but it's like, no, everybody has to learn something. This is hundreds of years before. So it's like, okay, I like this. But then Loden did it like later on, so I was like, okay, maybe Lavar wasn't the first, or
I
maybe
don't
he's been
think he
teaching other
was,
people.
because Martian
Okay,
Rowe, he, like when he's like taunting Loden, he says like,
yeah,
my parents taught me how to like deal with your kind and stuff. So obviously mind tricks are a thing that's been around for a while.
Yeah, maybe it was just not that known to Avar because when she was describing LeVar doing it, it sounded like he was the only one that could do it. Maybe it's still rare for a Jedi to do at this point, where later on every Jedi does it, right? So maybe not too many did it because she does talk about that it is like she didn't necessarily like it because it wasn't not proper, but it just felt like they should be able to figure out the mystery or figure out a lie instead of the truth. Like she felt it was maybe like frowned upon, right? Like when he was gonna do it to that family or the couple, she waved him off, right? She's like, "Don't do that. Like we can figure out." LeVar's was like she described it. I can't remember the actual term, but it was like he could see into, and that's why he had that vision at the end, which I can't wait to talk about. But he could kind of read people really well, and she said he could even do that without the Force, but it almost got a sense that like, he could feel like things from their mind or thoughts in a way. So that's kind of what I thought that his was. Bell's, I think he's still underdeveloped, that he doesn't really have one yet because he's just going into night and everything like that. So and I can't remember one specifically for Loden, but Avar's was like a strength in everybody, and LeVar's felt like it was that okay, he can kind of sense things about others that maybe others couldn't through the Force. So so we talked about the beginning there, and like I said, that goes on for a while, and then the good thing I did like about it though, that it at least tied into the main story, because I was worried this was just a random mission.
I thought so too.
Yeah, and if it was, I was like, this is taking too long. So I did love that it tied into everything. And that's where we'll get into, because we'll talk about them all, but this is where it really started to pick up for me, was the Nihil, when we get into that chapter and we get to meet everybody. And like I said, it was very Mad Max, very kind of like post-apocalyptic. But then they gave all the villains, and there's like 4 antagonists, and they gave them all very different personalities. What's the guy's name? Pan or whatever it was. He's like the bigger guy. He talked like this.
They all talked like that.
Well, no, but he was like the deeper one, and they talked about he had like his ship and his station would always be like black leather, and it was like really well put together and everything like that.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I just remember the name. What was it, like Cassian?
So, and then I can't remember the Twi'lek's name. Of course, I put a Twi'lek in there, so I was really happy. It was like Tadoni or something like that. I'll pull up a list of characters.
I think it was like Lorna Ray or
it was Lorna Ray. Yeah. But anyways, the other guy, he was the guy that like hosted that meeting at the beginning. Yeah, and that I really like, because he was the guy I was describing while you're gone. I was like, he felt like Bane in Dark Knight Rises, where he would like just lay it how it is. And there was one moment in Dark Knight Rises where Bane's like, "Here, do this for me, and then I will kill you." And that's very much like this was, where they have this thing and they talk about this job they did, and it all went successful. They were trying to get these 6 ships, and they got them all except for one. And they're like, "Well, one of our guys died, so that should, make up for it." He's like, "Well, that doesn't matter to us. We still didn't get what we needed, so one of you needs to still pay for it." And they kind of like, we didn't get to see how, but they do kind of like a Joker in Dark Knight again. Kind of Dark Knight is like throw in the pool cue, like make it fast. Like they just say, "Hey, your group needs to decide. It needs to decide if someone's gonna go, or you're just gonna fight it out till death." They choose to fight out till death. But that's why I like they spend, I think, a lot of times, even though I don't know their names, like really making these characters feel different. Like he is the brutish, more intimidating one. Lana Ray was it Lana Ray? No, because that's a singer, isn't it? Are you gonna pull him up?
I'm gonna look. Yeah.
Yeah. But the Twi'lek, they even describe like she's very tricky, she's very sneaky, and that's all her group is too. Like they are like, if you get stabbed in the back, it's her, but like she has her advantages. And then they have this guy who I thought you would just love, this guy, like I get what they were going for. He's like the junkie kind of troublemaker. He feels like a character out of Pirates of the Caribbean. He really did, like getting them all their trouble. And he even talks like, "Oh, you want to buy it now?" Like everything. Like he almost sounded like an orc.
That was like Cassian or whatever. Like Cassian.
Yeah.
He was okay. Again, like when we first got introduced to the Nihil, I wasn't 100% sold on them, because I was like, oh, space Vikings. Like I'm not really digging this. And then once they really got to like get into like how organized they were in their plan, and again when Marcia and Rowe kind of took the reins over them, then that's when it like really started to get interesting. And I was like, okay, I love how you have leaders of these Tempest fleets, and you have your Clouds and your Strikes and the different ranking system. Like this is like a force to be reckoned with, and I loved how they had that edge as opposed to other species and other like the Republic, where they could go into hyperspace at any given time and just jump out where they wanted. Again, that's connected to the old lady Tekka, which I thought was really, again, that was my first connection with Marcia and Rowe was him dealing with this old lady, and I wasn't dealing with it. I told this to Travis. I'm gonna say it now. Marcia and Rose, the audiobook really is a point down for me, and I shouldn't have done the audiobook. I should have read it on my own, so I could have done my own voices in my head. But the audiobook was just so horrendous because it gave Marcia and Rowe an Eddie Redmayne voice from Jupiter
Oh
Ascending.
no!
It was
Like I said,
so
I got
bad.
Voldemort out of it the same way. He was like, Potter, I will have to kill. Like he has that
Oh
like.
no, I didn't get that. I got
Oh, okay, no, listen, get your audiobook, listen to. You're not wrong with Eddie Redmayne, Jupiter or anything, but get your audiobook, listen to it, and then pull up a scene of Voldemort. It's very similar to that. His pitch is a little higher, but I liked it. He was a good snaky character in that
he
way.
talked like what's a line that he would have said like, "We have much work to do."
That's Voldemort. He would talk like that. Come, Canary, or whatever. He would say that snake or anything like that. So, of course, that's the only problem with the audiobooks is when you're trying to look up characters' names and everything like that. They don't have them because none of it's in text or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, see, I was sold on them multiple ways. I was sold on them after that meeting because I thought they were just going to be big brutes, and I thought, okay, they have a culty like thing, but just that meeting of okay, you're gonna have to kill one, seeing the dynamics of the group. They even point out how like, oh, they don't want to be like the Republic, even though it's kind of the system's exactly like the Republic. They've tricked them. But I liked so that meeting went down. They had someone kill one in the Nihil. I liked that, and it was like this anarchy and this kind of hierarchy as well. So the second though we met Marshawn Rowe, it was like, okay, we're starting to get very interesting now because there's two things I really liked. One, I liked the paths because the paths was I was in this non-spoilers, I said, when they announced these villains, like, okay, how do these guys stack up against Jedi? Well, you kind of have like it reminded me a lot of, you remember Scorpion King with the fortune teller girl, where
Oh
then
yeah.
if she slept with someone, she lost it. But like that's how he won those battles, right? Is he wasn't the greatest warrior, but he had this sorcerer who could foresee things and tell him what to do in battle, and that's what Marshawn Rowe. We'll just get into the twist, but that's what he was. So that's why it's like, okay, I understand how they can escape the Jedi, outsmart the Republic, stuff like that, because they kind of have like little cheat codes to pass, and like you said, they can jump in hyperspace anytime they want and not have to worry about it. So that's where it was like, okay, this is really cool. And then it just started to proceed too about all the ways they cloak each other, like how I keep want to call her Lana Ray, but that's the singer. It
I
can't
couldn't
be.
find their names.
Oh my god! But the Twilight, like that's how the Donna Ray. What it's so close. It's on the tip of my tongue. I thought you had it the first time, to be honest. But she had this ship that could, mask everything like that. And then they had the way they describe the ships, if they're like sometimes fists and they're like oblique, but they had like metal out of them. But then they had this main like horde when they'd be together, and it would be like a storm coming. It'd be like clouds and lightning, and it was like, okay, they're adding multiple ways, which is like I should have thought about. But to me, it was the way when we got that video reveal and they described them, it was like the Nihil sound pretty shitty, to be honest, and they really aren't. And Marshawn Rowe, he is. Oh man, I love this character so much because he's like a combination of, he has a hint of Kylo Ren in there because he has the classic like I'll finish what you started kind of motivation from Force Awakens, so we got that going on in there. We have like Kaiser Sose and Littlefinger, where Littlefinger all like Kaiser Sose is a character that, oh, you thought he was like a little weakling, you didn't know what he was up to, but then he's like a lot more dangerous than you think. And same thing, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, is there's all this stuff happening, and then when you get to the source of it, it was him. But then same thing in this, when you get the source of it, it's Marshall Rowe, especially when they do like the stuff at the end and they do all the reveals of like, oh, on what was the middle planet called? Loranian?
Sorry, which planet are you referring to?
The metal planet. They describe, because Belle would say like the air smelled like metal and rust and everything like that.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, or anyways, where they kidnap the family, then it's revealed like he was the guy that put in the emergency call, and then that moment when, so that's, if people didn't read the book, he is a very, like I said, Littlefinger snaky character where he's in the background, and the reason they use him is because he has access to these paths, but he just seems like he's that classic character that that's all he has, and then you could snap his neck. Like, you could just destroy him in a second. They even describe him as he's very tall, but he's very very slender. He has and there's pictures of him online. You can go look at it. But he, of course, classic black dark hair, so he's already on the Travis's list of like, oh, I like that. But no, but they describe him as just like he is. Like I said, he needs to he needs to be just a chess player and think ahead if he wants to do anything to keep up with these characters. He is that, but then there's a moment later on, we go towards the book where it's like Kasari or Cat, whatever the guy is, the third in command of the guy. He's the guy in the with the strikes, right? He runs the strikes, or
Who gets his hand cut off, right?
yeah. I'm trying. When you're talking next, I'm gonna pull up some audio and find their names. But so there's lots of tension because they set the seeds earlier that one of these three, if not all three of them, killed Marshawn Rowe's dad. So he's kind of there, and he keeps hinting that he's there for a plan. So he's a schemer. That's all you know. You kind of think of him as almost like Joker or Lex Luthor, where it's like, yeah, he's this, but if he takes a punch, it's over. There's this moment where there's kind of a big conflict going on with all four of them, and they're arguing and stuff like that. And then the guy, I want to know his stupid name, but this guy who's very much like he's like I said, the junkie, just type of like, I'm a bad guy and I'm kind of very stereotypical. They all got some information. He tried to sell it on the side and it blew up in his face. And we'll get more on that later. And then Martian Rowe has this moment where they're meeting. It's kind of near the back half of the book where he just punches him, and he has this glove. I love it. I said it's like metal, but also has like extenders. So it's like a big like it just like punches him, and then like the metal back, so it makes it even more powerful. It breaks his nose, and then like this is the great thing of this character. This guy goes to pull his gun, and he's like, well, Marshawn Rowe's known. He's kept it there for years. So he goes to pull his gun. He cuts his hand off, and then just with his boot, he slams him down to the ground and starts to press. So it's like you got the double of he's a planner and a schemer because he knows even where these guys keeping his secret weapon, but then he's also a physical threat. I did not think they were going to do the physical threat. I thought he was just going to be like the chess player guy. So when they did that, it's like, oh, man, this guy's super unpredictable. And then my last point before I throw the taters, like they made him the chess player, but even more so as far as like every little single thing that happened in this book that was bad towards the Jedi Republic, he was behind. The whole book, it just makes it look like he's reacting to it, and he's at the, kind of like they say is Selena Kyle in Dark Knight Rises, like she's good, but the ground beneath her is sinking. That's what it seemed like him, where it seemed like, okay, eventually this is going to catch up to him, but it's like, no, everything that went down, he planned the backstabs, he planned for the High Republic to get a kind of a notice on them, because before they're described as like a little group, and that's why they've been able to be under the radar. But if they get bigger, that could be bad for them. But he wanted them to get bigger, so they become almost like a grand organization. I loved this character so much, and even stuff like they revealed in the past he doesn't even have this power. His family has kidnapped this woman for decades and kept her alive with BAFTA in this tank just to give them these paths. So it's like, in one of these trilogies that I can't wait, eventually at the end they did say like he got hundreds of paths so he could do this for a while, but eventually that lady's gonna die and then the shit's gonna hit the fan, because there's gonna be a time where he's not gonna have the pass. But that's what I mean, where it's just like every time we got time with this character, there was something new and interesting, and I was so happy they kept him alive too, because I was like, please don't kill this character, and I hope he's like the trilogy's main bad.
So you know who that old lady is, right?
No, is she from existing canon?
Yes.
Oh, really?
At least
okay.
her family is. So she is from the Tekka clan. Now, do you remember who the Tekkas are? Because again, remember they went to Naboo, obviously, Avar and the other Jedi, and they went to talk to the Tekkas there, right? From the Tekka clan?
Yeah.
Because they have so much knowledge on hyperspace lanes and all that stuff. Well, if you remember in Force Awakens at the beginning, Poe Dameron goes to see Lor San Tekka. So he is from the same family.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, see, I knew I heard that name, but I didn't get that. So what are when Tekka, we're talking about Force Awakens, but when he gives Poe that this will begin to make things right, could we assume that maybe he has was he a Pathfinder too?
Probably. I mean, it fits because he had a map with the best way to travel to get to Luke.
Ooh, that's interesting. I like that. And that's what I like too. It introduced, because we've heard this before, and they'd said this like, oh, we're going to show a lot more Force users that aren't Jedi. And all we got was your boy Donnie Yen. And then that was about it in these past, like, what it was 2015, so it's been 6-7 years since Disney's owned them, and it's like that's kind of all we've gotten in live action. I guess these are still the books and everything like that, but it's just like I do like seeing like, okay, technically I would say this is the Force because the Force kind of powers all things, but it's like it's a different version of the Force that I've seen, and it's something I like where it's like, okay, this is a variant. It doesn't seem too out there. Like for me, like time travel or like the world between worlds, that for me is like, okay, that's too far. But this like using the Force where to sense paths, I really like that. So what did you've talked about a little bit? What do you think about Marshawn
Well,
Rowe?
just to kind of piggyback on using the Force to sense paths,
Yeah.
that is a huge thing in Star Wars the Thrawn novels. So
Okay, that's cool.
it's cool because the Thrawn, his people, the Chiss, basically, they're his species. They're born with the Force, and then when they hit puberty, they lose the ability to use the Force. So when they're young, they're basically exactly what you said, Pathfinders. They basically use the Force to navigate safely throughout the Outer Rim through hyperspace. Um, so it's an idea that I love how that you can use the Force to do that. And again, like fun tidbit of information when he was like Thrawn was antagonizing Darth Vader. Darth Vader is like, "What do you call those Force users that navigate?" And Thrawn's like, "We call them Skywalkers." It's a fun little like piss off to Vader. But anyways, yeah, it's a cool concept to use the Force to travel that way. But Marchion Ro, yeah, he wasn't doing it for me at the start. But again, as we got to like learn more about his character and it progressed and his grand scheme of how he was playing things, like I love a good Sheev, and this is like a
Oh yeah.
Sheev Jr. So it works for me. He had his insights in the High Republic,
Oh yeah.
giving him his details and everything, which is super cool. And
He's
again,
spread out. He has
he
people
is.
everywhere.
He's got
Yeah.
people everywhere. His layout of his plan was so well executed. And I again, when he's talking to Loden, and Loden's like, "What is your plan?" and or what are you up to? And he's like, "Oh, you think I have a grand plan? I don't work like I'm not like that. I have goals." And
Well, yeah,
his,
because he asked, "What's your plan?" He's like, "Well, plans change. It's all about an end goal." And that's where he's like, "Well, what's your goal?" And we don't get that. We just get that he opens up whatever this. And that's what I want to ask you is like, because you're the canon boy, but like, do you have any ideas what this purple light slash like they described it as like a combination of what was it, a staff with stone and metal, and he like opens it up and it just fills the room in purple, which is interesting because later on at the end book when we get the epilogue, and we'll talk about Lavar and Avar later because oh boy, I got some Raylo stuff going on, but he has that vision and he sees like a bunch of dead Jedi full of fear, which is not a good thing, and just covered in a tint of purple. So whatever this guy has, whether it's just I don't know, like I don't know, is it like kind of like a scarecrow thing where maybe he can make people see the thing they fear the most or something like that? Because I don't think it's just like he puts it on blind to people. Like I think it could, I don't know what it could be, but that was very interesting because he didn't reveal what his end goal was. Pretty much, like obviously it's just to take over and rule, but it seems like he still has more to that, and that's what I liked at the beginning. It seemed like his end goal was just to take out and find out who killed his dad, but really it wasn't that. This plan has been trying to be enacted for decades or generations through his family, whatever he's gonna do.
Yeah, I don't know what that item is. I mean, it
Mhm.
could be anything. I think that's the point of just being mysterious. If you listeners, viewers know what that is, 100%, then let us know in the comments because
Yeah,
I'd
I
love
think
to
it's
know.
new. I think it's gonna be
I think
something we
it's
haven't
new.
seen before. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love how he got that lightsaber again. Like he's just
Hmm.
rocking the golden lightsaber. That's cool. And I've come to really appreciate. And I think the sequel trilogy has kind of done this and opened my eyes to like the life of a lightsaber and how it's like its own entity and its own like it's its own living thing. And for him to just use Loden's lightsaber and kill that father of that
Oh,
family, that was just
brutal.
yeah, that was brutal and really unfortunate for the father. But it's just I
They
feel
weren't
like
even the
oh,
targets.
I know.
And that's what I loved about Marshawn Rowe. Like he's just so deadly and cunning now because it's just like he kidnapped this family just to hopefully get a Jedi. He didn't even know if it was guaranteed. So like they made it seem like this family that they went to kidnap was maybe rich and connected, so they could like use it to extort them in a hostage situation. And just when the Twi'lek like kind of Nihil said, I'll get her name eventually, but when she's just like, why did you want him? And he just takes lightsaber and such like, I don't care about him. And it was like, Oh my god! And that was so great seeing like at the beginning of the novel where all of them, you got the sense look like the three chiefs like look down on him, and now like one's dead because he just like I knew that was coming because it was just like he's setting him up so big because he's like, yeah, I'm gonna give you these paths and you'll find your way. And but what he does in the book is, so this guy that screwed up. He that whole scene when he screwed. I wish I had his name, but it's like Carson or something like that.
Are you talking about when he screwed up with Ariadu, or when he screwed up and they enter the paths and they're like, "We're getting out of here," and they're just ramming into the Republic
Well,
ships?
how he screwed up a lot of times. He was that character. He's that classic, like I said, junkie, because he literally is a junkie. He's doing so many death stakes. But we'll talk more about Marsh on Row. But I just want to set up what happened there. Is so they all working together, blah blah blah, and what happens is when they do these hyperspace jumps through the paths, they can hit ships or cause like emergencies and stuff like that. So it's like debris falling and it could hit anywhere and they don't know where. It might be like the public, everybody. So he could use the paths a la the Tekken. That's poor, just old lady in the bathtub. We'll talk about her. But they were going to use these and find these emergence. And this guy who's like, I'll just call him the Death Sticks guy or whatever. I want to find his fucking name. But like they have this big party with his crew, and they're literally getting high on death sticks and smack, and they're playing this music, which was that kind of took me out of it because it was like heavy metal. I was like, okay, I guess maybe they have heavy metal, but he has this idea that he's gonna use this information to some plan, I can't remember what it is, and like extort them for 50 million credits. Which I love when he tells the story of Marsh on Row. He's like, yeah, I'll even give you the 30 million credits they gave me. So it's like he was still like hiding the 20 million credits that he also got. But what happens is he's extorting this senator. One goes off, doesn't hurt anybody, but he gave them the coordinates and says, like, I can give you the next two if you give me the money. They don't give them money, so he gives them the coordinates for the second one. It goes off and it kills about 1,000 people. So he says, so see, I'm serious. I know I can help save you as long as you give me the money. They send him the 50 million, but in the third one, they like because they're they're all high on smack and whatnot. They overshot or they undershot where they were supposed to be, and they let this emergent blow off. And they said it killed close to 1 billion people, which I just laugh because every big Star Wars adventure movie needs a fucking explosion, right? But so what happens is during this recording, he was like the senator was like tagging everything, getting his ship, his information, his name, everything, and they put that out to the galaxy to find him. So his idea was to get this money and just run away from Nihil. He goes back with his tail tucked in between his legs, and the other two leaders want to vote him out. They have this rule where the three leaders get a vote, Marchand gets a vote, and then like he kind of counts as two because he sees the paths. So it was he decided, we're gonna keep the Carson or whatever, Carson. Alive, and it was like, this seems strange because the whole book they have tension. The whole book they're like squaring off. Marchand and Carson is like, you don't understand me, or you're a weakling, blah blah blah. But it was just so he could get him and his whole crew to go up there because they were going to steal something from the Republic. But he just used them as bait so he could make the Republic think that they killed all the Nihil. And what he does is he gives them these paths. And they're like, this is working out great in the middle of battle. So what happens is while like let's say the High Republic's about to shoot a ship, they will light speed very quickly to just short distance. So it's like they can't really lock on them. But then what Marsh on Row did, he eventually made the paths leading the High Republic ships. So he just made them all suicide bombers, but against their will. They didn't know this. So he just sent them all out there. And it was great. But that's where so he takes them out. Lana Ray, I'm just going to call her that. She kind of starts to figure this out. He does tell her, and that scene where he does have the lightsaber and he's swinging it back and forth.
That was good.
I was like, I did think she was gonna go. I didn't like her chances, and she didn't end up going. He spared her because he's like, I may have use for you, but like he's literally just like swinging it like right by her, and in the sense that like he could like literally just move an inch and maybe get her. He even puts it right to her face, and he lays this whole story down that he even framed her. He sent her on a mission that was destined to fail, and she goes, why would you do that? And he just goes, because your people would believe in you less and you'd have nowhere to go. So it's just like from this character that kind of seemed pathetic and just had some knowledge was the whole way through making these movies. Like you said, very sheevish, and that's where it's like, oh man. And now at the end, he literally he has his mask, but he like fitted his mask with like a new crown or something. So like they've all just decided to follow him, and I think they've set him up to be like a really worthy bad guy going forward, and that's part of the reason too, where it's like just adapt these books because I want to see Marshall Rowe live action or animated in the future so bad. Maybe he survives by the time we get to Acolyte, but I think they did such a good job setting up this character, and there's still so much like there's still so many ways this could go. I think it's
Hmm.
just perfect now, and oh boy, it was yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like they did wonders with him and really turned him around into being such an incredible character and villain. Him controlling all these different things and him now being at the end taking control of the Nihil and having control of this whole militia and fleet is just crazy. Again, they do have 2/3 of their Nihil forces left, but again, like he says, we're gonna grow, we're gonna recruit more, and just
Yeah.
kind of we got the paths to evade and everything. And he has some secret weapon to use against the Jedi, and it's gonna be very interesting to see what he does because yeah, it's funny because he wanted a Jedi, but then when he found out that he got Loden Greystorm, he really piqued interest. Like, okay, this is too perfect, and so I'm wondering, okay, what does Loden mean to him? Because obviously there's some pre-existing knowledge as to why Marshall and Rowe wants him, or didn't.
I don't think it. I think it was just any Jedi though.
But remember, Loden told him his name, he like fell off the wall and was like, "That's too perfect." Like, because
Yeah, I guess
he
so.
knew who he was, so he obviously has something in mind for him.
And I loved that little like, and again, he's that's what I love too. He's just becoming such a dark, twisty character because so he already has the Tekken. She's literally an old lady that described it, kind of years old. She could kind of go at any minute, but he's just like working her. They describe this like sad story. She pretty much just has Alzheimer's because every time they meet, she sometimes thinks he's like a business associate. Sometimes she hates him. Sometimes she thinks it's her father, her son, just a friend. And so it's like he's just using this woman, keeping her alive just to complete whatever he wants. But with Loden, he had him in all these, like he had him in a prison, but then he had these other 7 jail cells, and it's all these people that haven't been fed, they're bruised, they're beating, and everything like that. And Loden says, "Why are these people here?" And he goes, "Well, a Jedi, they can't kind of conquer or prosper with fear and hate and pain around them. So he's literally just keeping these people around here. So Loden can't send out a signal to any other Jedi. So people
Hmm.
can't sense his life force because he's surrounding him with all this pain and anguish. It's like, oh man, that's twisty. That's good. Like that's some good stuff right there. Like that. Like all those last few chapters was starting to give me chills. Like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, Marshawn. Like this is exact. Like because now it's like, okay, this is a guy, and now he has a lightsaber. And that's a good thing. Before, it's not like a weakling with a lightsaber. They showed, okay, this guy can actually fight. So it's like he's gonna have a lightsaber. We know there's gonna be a duel. So I love that. Again, it's not the Sith, and that was my worry because I always wanted to see the Sith War. They have this guy who has this army. He has like kind of like force magic behind him. He has a lightsaber, and we don't even know what this purple thing does. We really don't. I think kind of like Empire Strikes Back, the second book, whatever LeVar saw, that's going to be the ending of the second book
Hmm.
because I think they're going to think that they have him and he's going to bust out whatever this is, and that's my theory. I'm not going to throw a hashtag Travis told you because it's still early on, but my theory is it's like a scarecrow fear gas where it makes people see what they fear because I don't know what else would make all these Jedi's just be stricken in fear. So that's what I bet I can bring that out of anybody. That's my
Hmm.
prediction. So and it's I
Um,
don't know where he would have got that from. Like I don't know. Like that has to be like
I'm assuming
like
it's like a Sith artifact or something. That's
yeah.
my bet. So, yeah, I know we talked everything we can about Marshall and Rowe, but kind of segueing off of that, like his plan that he had for Cashin or whatever his name was, when they were expecting to find just frigates to get the flight recorder, and his Tempest fleet was all gathered, like over 100 ships and mobilized with his capital ship and everything like that, and the Republic attack force arrives. I love how I love how he just like him leading the charge for his battle. Like he was not like the greatest leader, but he definitely I like how he inspired his troops because that whole space battle sequence is fantastic. That's why part 3 is my favorite because I love that
Yeah,
space
yeah.
battle. So when he told his troops to fight dirty and all that stuff, and just them kind of like covering how the Nihil were fighting, how the one ship pretended to kind of look like it was disabled and escape pods were launched, and they just used
Mm.
the use the weakness of the Republic just to kind of like they scooped up all the life pods and brought them into their capital ships and then just detonated the life pods. Like that's so dirty, that's greasy. And then the one ship was like emptying all the sludge and like disposable waste and everything, and then like lit that on fire and burned like ships. Like just all those creative ways to fight was just great. And you have this Republic leader who's like can't process how to like handle this
Yeah.
scenario.
Well, because he just goes, and Kosov was the the druggie's name, yeah. And I'm gonna
yes.
find out the other ones next time we're talking. So Kosov was the kind of the guy that Marshall Rowe had a problem with the whole time. He's the one that he sacrificed. But then at the end, I loved it because he made him seem like a war hero to everyone that was left surviving. He's like, we can't let him die in vain, you know, all this stuff. Like it was like, oh, like when you, especially like I'll find out her name too. But when the Twilight, like, she knows all this and she just has to be sitting there being like, God damn. But like that's what I like that. He's like, I understand that the Nihil are kind of savages, but the fact that they would literally just be giving their own lives because they just thought they were gonna even defeat these people, but then at least bring them in for question. That was still part of the plan, but it's just like, no, they're killing themselves, they're blowing themselves up, they're sending all these things like you said. As far as I love that little, that to me just all that felt like classic almost Star Wars is how they like hid R2D2 and C3PO in the escape pods because they couldn't sense them. It's the same thing. They hid these bombs in there. So it's like, oh no, it's not the people escape. So they go to shoot these escape pods and they're killing, like the High Republic's killing themselves. So that's where it's like, again, it feels like he's thought of every move. Like, okay, they could do this, they could do this. That's why I think eventually when the Tekken dies, that's when we're going to see him like really desperate because he won't have paths anymore. And that's when it's going to be like, okay, that's when I think the ground beneath him will start to really crumble because he said he has hundreds, but eventually that's going to run out. And there's going to be a time where they're going to say, give me a path. He's going to go get it and she's going to be dead. And it's going to be like, well, man, what does he do? I think his plan is, though, to try and be so powerful that it won't matter and he could just even make up a path or just like what he'll just say we don't even need them anymore, we're better than that. But the problem is he has I bet that'll be his motivation in the second book. It's even now because he said go out there, I want thousands of Nihil, blah blah blah. I think in the second book he will be like, I want to get to a point where we're so powerful we don't rely on the paths. But that's where I think it might happen, where he might need like one more path and then she's gonna be dead and it's like, oh, what does he do? Because he's gonna go back and like, or the Jedi are after them, and they need one path to get out of there. It's like, what is he gonna do? And that's where I think they could intercept him, and they think, okay, we got him, and that's when this purple staff's gonna come out, and I don't know what it's gonna do. I was happy that Loden's alive because I thought he was for sure a goner.
They set that up with Bell. They totally set that up
way too much, and that's why I like to subvert expectations because he's just like, you know what? You're doing so good. When I get home, we're gonna make you a Jedi Knight.
Just lay it on you hard. Like, oh, he's totally dead. And then, like again, like he breaks his leg, thinking they're just prolonging his death.
And the ship too. He had like this goodbye with his ship. He's like, the Nova.
Yeah.
No, I never told anyone that Bell called it that, but I always liked the name, and I'm gonna tell Bell that I really love the name too. And then the ship goes like gets destroyed. And he's like, goodbye, Nova. We had a good run. So
yeah.
I was really happy he was alive because I was like, okay, they're either subverting our expectations and playing with it, or if they just kill him, it's like, I wish they weren't so heavy-handed with it. So I think they did a good job making you think, oh yeah, we're gonna kill him, and then no, they kept him alive. And I love that story with the family because it was in the background, but you didn't exactly know where it was gonna go. But then, like I said, I got chills when he was talking. Marshawn Rowe was talking with the Twilight. And you slowly realized, oh man, Loden didn't get that dad out of there because he's like, oh, the father of the group. But she's like, yeah, but I didn't get the lightsaber from him. And it was like, oh no, Loden's there. And it's like, is he alive? Is he dead? And he's there. And again, that poor family. Because what happens is that the girl Twilight goes to Marshawn Rowe and says, like, I got this information about this family, kind of like what we told you earlier. It just revealed later that he gave her all the information. It was just a con job for him because he wanted to go to this planet because it had an outpost. And I actually love the description of this planet like we were talking about earlier. Like, it just smelled like metal and gross and rust. And I love all Bell's words for it. But I love that now he just needed a Jedi. But this poor family, they lost a dad. Their mom's been shot. These kids are just petrified. And I really thought we were going to get a happy ending there. I thought they were all going to be reunited. But no, like, it just, like, he just killed the dad, like, mercifully. And I don't know if we'll ever see that family again. But it was just, again, that's why I like it. Just, that's kind of always what we were talking about with Kylo Ren at the end of like Force Awakens last year, where I was like, okay, here's the part where he's just gonna be full and bad, and that's not the route they went. I ended up liking some of the stuff they did because there's always like a struggle there. Marshawn Rowe doesn't have that. It feels like he's getting more brutal, and the next book it's just like the only struggle he'll have is like trying to keep alive. But this book, he was brutal and violent at that last part, and he didn't care. It's all about himself, and it's just like he's super dangerous in so many facets now. So
Um, Another thing I want to shout for one of Costa's second in commands, the Gungan Nihil. I really got a kick out of
Wet Bub.
Wet Bub. Yeah, I really got a
I did
kick
like
out of
him.
that. That was just such a like cool touch, and they even gave like his origin story when he killed a guy and he was just like coated in blood or whatever, and they just started calling him Wet Bub, and he just they didn't confirm whether he likes it or not, but he doesn't call him out on it, so it must mean that he likes it. What's something else that I got here? Some of the voice acting. I'll just touch back on that. The females that they had voices for didn't work. If they want a female voice, just they could have got a female voice. It was just weird having the guy do weird Canadian accent female voices. It was so odd. And again,
Well, I guess it's a good thing for people that read. They don't have these same cons as us, right? Because I
yeah,
will
that's
agree with you.
true.
I've said this since Master Apprentice. I know it's this guy. Everyone really likes him, but they should get a female to do the female voices. It just sometimes doesn't work for me. It's just kind of like, all right, I don't know. It takes me out of it, and I don't know. It would help if they did that.
Oh yeah. Again, like some of the voices that they did do are fantastic. Like I love like the Wookiee stuff, the Duros Jedi. I can't remember her name, but that again was like really really well done. The uh, Nautilin Jedi's or not Nautilin Jedi. The Nautilin's voice though. And who else did they have? The Trandoshan Jedi. His
Mhm.
name Skier. Yes, Skier. That was super cool with his dynamic. And yeah, again, like there was two characters, and one of them was the Nihil's um uh what was it? Is Kasef?
Kasif was the
Cass,
drug guy.
yeah, Cassius. So his like one of his like comms people or whatever, he sounded like if you've seen The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, Benny. He's like, "Oh, the other ships are
He
coming
did,
to
yeah.
help us." I couldn't get that voice out of my head. And then again, my last con on just the voice is if you listen to the audiobook, so many of the Jedi sound like the Volturi from Twilight. It's just absolutely bonkers, but again, that's my only con. Like, if you have the choice between audiobook and reading it, buy the book and read it because it's so much better of an experience.
Well, I don't know. Like, I'll speak for the person that because almost all I do is not audiobooks. I like them as far as it helped me with the time. I would have never read it this fast to get it done, and I do like the product. See, I still if as long as it was female voices, some of the voices I go, okay, this isn't the greatest. And even the female voices I get over, that would help, but. I still love it all. I love the lightsabers. I love when the music kicks in sometimes, the sound effects. So
Yeah, that's
you know,
true. It is
yeah.
good. There's just like there's certain parts where it's like they're trying to talk like on the comms of Jedi, and you just hear this Wookiee screeching in the background. It's like pulling out like what the fuck's going on? Oh, freaking Buriaga's just popping off. What else do I
Yeah,
have on
yeah.
here?
Talk about some next. I'm so close to trying to find out names for these people. We got Kosov so far, so
Um, so there were yeah, I think it was Jorah Mali. So Jorah Mali was then with Skier, and Jorah Mali was the other Jedi I think that died in the final battle against Kassa's fleet. So again, he or she, I like her setup because she talks about how her kyber crystal that she uses in her lightsaber is a white blade, and how she just initially for
mhm.
practice she pulled the Sith kyber crystal from a Sith spear, I believe. And it's cool that she just initially just wanted to purify it just for the insights and the knowledge, but she ended up feeling attached to it and used it in her lightsaber, which I thought was very, very cool. Again, I find it really, really awesome how I can't remember the name of the fighters, but the Jedi fighters to use them, they have to take their lightsaber, put it into the dash, and then activate it to activate like the weapons and use the
Mhm.
ship, which I think is super cool as a contingency. Not anyone can just use their Jedi starfighter, which I like.
Lorna D.
Lorna
Narrator,
D. Oh,
Lorna D. And she
Lorna
calls her
D.
ship the Lorna D.
Okay.
I love that classic Twilight. Like I fucking love Twilight. But yeah, they call it because she's just like, oh, she likes her name and she thinks she's great, so she called her ship the Lorna D, and no one's questioned her about it. And if they did, they might murder her. I'll try and find the other guy's name, but he was the least interesting out of the group because he's just like I said, he had like a Bane aspect. I like that where he's very intimidating. They made him sound like he's bigger, but it was weird because he's this Viking-like character, but they made him sound like he's very particular about what's in the ship and how he's dressed and stuff like that. And like I said, his name was like Paneer or Pan or something like that. And he was like described as kind of a bigger brooder guy. But we got, I'd say, the least amount of him. I think he'll kind of be more a factor. So there you go. Lorna D.
Lorna D.
Kosov. Yeah.
They talk about the Jedi Outpost, and I love that they have a Jedi Outpost on these several planets. I love that they have one on Kashyyyk, they have one on Mon Cala, and they go into detail. Like Kashyyyk, it's like built in this giant type of tree, and then Mon Cala, it's like this floating platform outpost, which is just super cool just to think. And that's such a shame in the live action films that we have where these Jedi outposts aren't really a thing. The only place that they operate is just the temple on Coruscant.
Oh yeah, and they even said that they had. Didn't they say they had another I thought when
on
they're
Starlight Beacon, they had another temple, which was
is that what their plan was? I thought they said there was two. I thought they said Starlight Beacon was gonna be the third.
Oh, I think they said Starlight Beacon was the second biggest, just under Coruscant's Jedi Temple.
Okay, because I thought there was like another this is like the third biggest. Or
There
whatnot,
there
but,
are a lot of them. It seems like so.
Yeah. No, I keep saying this is why I still feel they need an Apprentice a show based on the Apprentice from like year one from the kid, and because even hearing that because when they're talking about how Jorna, which we meet her in one chapter, she's the Jedi who's like the deciding vote if they're gonna battle Nihil. She decides yes, but she also loses her life to it, so it didn't go well. But she talks about like her Padawan is just like dreading going to Starlight Beacon because it just sounds so boring to them instead of being adventuring and stuff. And like I said, there's just like good dynamics between lots of Jedis and apprentices in this, or Jedi Knights. But that's what I'd love is a Jedi's like an apprentice point of view, and he gets that, and he's like, oh, I gotta go there. Like, I just think there's still lots of untapped potential with like Jedis and apprentices and stuff like that, and even like the outposts. It's just a regular to me a year in an apprentice's life. What is that like? And no like big conflict, no like like there can be a bad guy that they got chased down, like a mission they're assigned, sure, but what is it like to just go like the way Bell was with Loden? They're just at this outpost for a while. Like, what are they doing there? He just kind of sits there, and he talks about he doesn't want to be there. He just finds it boring, and it's just again, that's one of the things I liked about the world building in this book is all the little mentions of Jedi apprentices and stuff like that. The Outpost, Starlight Beacon, which I'm excited to see get blown up. I'm sure in one of these fucking books.
Actually, on that note about it being blown up, I need to confirm something.
There's no way it's gonna make it, right? I feel like it's gonna get blown up.
No, I don't know if it's Starlight Beacon, but in the Darth Vader comics, Darth Vader goes to a floating massive Jedi temple, and I'm just wondering if it's the same station because he let's see, Darth.
That's
Vader
interesting.
Comics Jedi Temple. I'll have to like dig around and see if I can find it because I know I read in the comics he flies to it and these clones mistake him as a Jedi and try to like kill him, and he uses a green lightsaber and kills all the clones. It's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, the another thing I do want to mention though, I have to say I probably find Bell and Loden to be my favorite characters in this book. I really like Bell's ability as he overcame just being able to use the Force to brace himself as he was leaping and falling. I love that, and I just love his connection with Loden. I found Loden to be super, super awesome, and that one Jedi Master that was there. Do you remember his name? Because I couldn't find it.
It was like
he was like the
Pock or Poke or something like the guy with the eye patch, right?
Well, he was known as like the Blade of something, and he had he was like super, super like old, but really, really skilled and everything like that.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but it wasn't Poe, but it was something like wasn't it like Poro or Poro or I thought it was something like that. But yeah, there was this Jedi on this outpost who has been known as like, even though he's older, they're like he's still wanting to take missions, and they just say that in the book he just wants to contribute until he's dead. And I thought he was also going to be a goner too, because they kind of set him up like, oh, he's going for one last ride. But he did get shot, but he survived and he made it back. He got shot or stabbed or something, but he made it back. And I guess we don't know what happened to that family, but he was giving them medical attention, so he didn't die either. So I think they were good with that, giving you a lot of red herrings for who was going to make it and who wasn't. Like even Jorah, that Jedi that we met as a council member, you would think that okay, we meet her in one chapter, they're setting her up for she's a Jedi. She's the first main character of this book who's a council member, right? So it's like, oh, we're seeing another side, but then the next chapter she's dead. So it's like I think they did a good job with the deaths as far as making you think, oh, this person's going, and then they
Yeah.
weren't, and then the person that you think, oh, this is sticking around, and then they're gone. Other than like I said, the Wookiee and his master, who I don't think served much of a purpose in this story, other than we really want a Wookiee Jedi. I think they will be in the stories later on, but
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, that moment he had with the kid, it was one of my favorite moments of the book. I think you could have done that moment in any type of book. You just find him meeting a kid that's lost his parents, and then you do that scene. I don't think it was needed here. So and I'll take the audio. I'll take their verse. I think the Wookiee talk didn't work in that because he'd be like, but then he'd talk like, "My name is Wookiee." It's like you don't need to make him sound like
Yeah,
that.
no, no, no.
Just like you don't need to make the Wookiee sound dumb. It's just. But I love
Yeah.
seeing the Wookiee's perspective because he's just this like I don't know. To me, how I've gotten it from Star Wars, I just feel like naturally, like, from Star Wars, the holiday special, of course, check out our Patreon episode, but they're just naturally like friendlier species, and they're always trying to look out for someone. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that in a Jedi because Jedi, there's not that. They're supposed to look out for people's safety, but their almost personal well being, especially once we get in the prequels, that's supposed to be cut off, right? You don't worry about their emotionality. You just worry, are you safe? Okay, good. We'll see you later. Where he's hugging him. He's trying to say like the explosion was your fault. So I think they did a good job with the deaths and everything like that. Like they not fooled me, but definitely got my mind thinking a different way than they went.
Mm-hmm. The image I sent you, so it's not obviously Starlight Beacon, but it is a Jedi outpost that the Jedi has. So they definitely had like space outposts and stuff.
Well, it's probably one that if Beacon works for a while, they're probably like, let's do more of these. But I
Yeah.
do think Starlight Beacon is going to get Death
It
Star.
it probably, yeah, I bet like book 3 we're gonna have like the whole Nihil fleet
Yes.
show up and frickin' Marshawn Rose just gonna destroy it with his lightsaber or something.
But he just swings it, and just throws it out there. But no, I agree with Bell. Bell and Ava are my favorite. I liked Loden enough. I'm happy he's alive. I think he was a little like generic as far as Master, like you gotta learn. But I think they did have a good dynamic. But yeah, Ava I liked a lot at the beginning, but like you said, she kind of goes away. So I was kind of disappointed with that. I wanted to know more of her story. Of course, the reason and the other guy I do really like is Elvar. Two reasons. One being the obvious as far as Travis, like we'll get into it, but they're hinting at some like star-crossed forbidden lovers thing with them, so I like that. But two, it just seemed like he was, it. I don't know. It seemed. I don't want to compare him to Mace Windu because I know there'll be somebody being like, "Oh, you're comparing him to like another Black Jedi," but he did. He kind of had that like bad call. Like in that interrogation, it felt like he if they were to say, "Hey, this guy trained Mace Windu," I could believe it, and maybe that'll
Mm-hmm.
be a bad thing for him going forward. That he doesn't seem like he's his own character, but he did feel like that kind of when they talked to the Lightspeed family, as far as she was the good cop, he was the bad cop. He was very. It seemed like the only moments he was kind of personable or seemed like caring was in private moments with Avar. Anytime he was around anybody else, he seemed very stern, very to the point, very like even the way when he questioned the family, like Avar noted, like he's not doing it in a like a subtle way, like he's
Mm-hmm.
making it seem like they're suspicious of something and maybe you should lay off a little bit. So very much like Mace Windu, right? He'd always be in people's faces with Anakin or Obi-Wan. It was very few times where he would lay back, like party's over. Like Mace Windu was always just like, fuck you, I'm gonna do what I want. And that's LeVar wasn't as bold as Mace was, but he was still just a Jedi Knight. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact is when he becomes master, what's it gonna be? But what did you think about LeVar? You already kind of talked about Ava, but if you want to touch on her, and then after we're gonna talk about some other touching they may have been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you on him and his character and all that. Like I just he definitely had that kind of same like composure to him that Mace
Mm-hmm.
Windu kind of has, so I think it's fitting. I definitely I wasn't really drawn into him as a character as much as I was again like for Loden.
Yeah, I
But
definitely want more from him.
yeah, I'd like to see more what they do, and I'm excited to see what we do get out of that because obviously he had that significant end scene there where he had that vision
Mm.
of what's to come. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that foreshadow because Jedi and their foreshadows, it's never a good thing. So
No,
that'll
no.
be super super interesting. One thing I do want to point out with the Jedi that in the first part when all hell broke loose and we were just waiting for the Jedi to come in, and then you just have like people calling for help and everything like that, and you get that one transmission that comes in, and this is why I do appreciate the audiobook actually on a pro for it. The score kicks in, and it's just like, I'm Jedi Master, like we're coming to help, and it's just like that hopeful feeling, and I
Oh
that
yeah.
is what Jedi need to be, and I love that in Star Wars. It's just the Jedi. And there were so many moments in this book that had that where Loden and Bell and the other Jedi upon the Nihil, but the Nihil got into their fighter and they swooped around and they opened fire on Loden, and Loden took a stance and managed to survive it, and then the fighter went past and it was coming around, and this is why I love Bell, and he's like just easily favorite character of this book by far, is
Mhm.
he didn't even think about it. He just took the same stance he saw Loden do and was ready to do what Loden did to defend him and himself against that starfighter. And he was just no fear at all, ready to do it. And then all of a sudden you have the other Jedi. I can't remember her name, but she's using the Force to control, I believe, the other Jedi starfighter and her own. And she swoops in and like the score kicks in
Mhm.
and she just like saves the day. Like it's so awesome. Um, there were a few moments like that, which is really just hopeful and really, really powerful. So I really commend the author for landing those moments.
Yeah, I will agree and expand upon those after this ad break. But no, they had said before, as far as like, hey, the Jedi, this is gonna be the height of the Jedi, right? And it did feel like
Mm-hmm.
that, but it didn't feel like the prequel where it's like, there's some easiness here and there's almost some cockiness here. This literally did just feel like they were guardians of the peace and like whatever the situation was, they're gonna have. Now, the thing is, I feel like even though the prequel Jedi's are complacent, I feel like they still are gonna be a bit more dangerous. Like I feel like these Jedi are almost too hopeful, which
Oh,
I think is point.
they
Yeah.
are dangerous. Like you're right. Like several times in this book, they cover the fact like even when Loden went onto the Nihil ship at the end and he saw the other Jedi that escaped with the daughter or the son, he's like, oh, I guess she was forced to defend herself and take their lives. Like they're super big on not taking life, like unless they
Yeah.
need to. Whereas you look at like the prequel Jedi, they're like, we gotta kill some guys, we're killing some guys. Like,
Party's over.
yeah, party's over.
And
Exactly.
that's what I mean. Like that's where it's like I think these Jedi's are better for society. But if you put these Jedi's in a battle in the room with the prequel Jedi's, I think the prequel Jedi's gonna fuck them right up. Like Qui-Gon's gonna kill every one of these. And that's why like I am excited, like because I think LeVar kind of has that sort of kind of vision sense as far as Qui-Gon. I wonder in Acolyte if there's any chance we get a young Qui-Gon because it's
Yes,
starting to get to that
please.
close. What?
Yes, please.
Oh, I want because like I said, my dream series is like young Qui-Gon with Count Dooku. So that's one of the only pros about that show. But yeah, I think that's one thing that was good. Like good, it's not a bad thing, but it is just like yeah, they were very very hopeful, and that's where the bad side is because it's also they're so hopeful where that like Jorah she decided well if they're Jorah was starting to get that prequel ish of well let's just kill these people, but then that also didn't work out for them, right? I
Hmm.
think it's just kind of the point of it shows, and this we've always talked about the shows one this and that, like the Jedi and what they were doing for 600 years or whatnot. Like it worked, but it's only always worked for a certain period of time, and then it just goes to shit. And that's why I hope that we don't just throw Rey and Finn and these new characters aside. I hope we get a Star Wars 10 or just whatever, something in the future, and it shows okay, we are doing a Jedi Order, but a new way. A way where I know I joke about it, but a way where it's like, hey, we're not going to tell you you can't bang anybody anymore. We're not going to like there has to be some sort of new evolution. That is one disappointment with me in the sequel trilogy. I always thought we were going to get that. We didn't really, but that's what I wanted to get on to with Avar and LeVar. As far as I agree with you as far as LeVar, he's not one of my favorites because I feel we need a bit more, but their connection, I liked their scenes together in general. I thought they had a good like well-written chemistry, but I always love Jedi, Rail Alvarez, Raylo for life. So we've gotten multiple hints And I even like I messaged you right when I first read their interaction. I'm like, oh, these two are gonna fuck. Like they like or this is what we were debating, or they already have. And I think there's a strong chance because they met when they were younglings and they've been together ever since. And in the last throughout the whole book, there's like they both have little things where like when someone writes LeVar looks at her and sees the sea, that's where it's like that's a fucking love thing. That's not has nothing to do with the Jedi. And then there's at one moment where the very first time their interactions are together in the book, Avar's talking about this, or they're talking about Naboo, and she's like, I think she says Naboo or some other planet, but I think she was using Naboo as a comparison. She's like, oh, if I was ever to retire or stop being a Jedi, I'd like to be in a place like this with LeVar. And it's like, that's not something the Jedi say. You don't say like, you don't just say I'm going to retire and be with this person. So that's where at first I thought they were already getting it on and they were just keeping on the hush hush. But this is where at the last point of the book she says something where they're thinking back on old feelings and old times, and then she goes, "But we're Jedis now." So Taylor disagrees, but I feel like the last time you disagreed with me about Jedi and Sith people fucking, my interpretation is before they took their honors of a night, that even if it was just a kiss, that something did go down because she just said like we're Jedi Knights now, and to me saying now it's like that means something maybe happened before where it's like we can't do that anymore.
There in this era, they really emphasize the fact that ranks of Jedi Master and Knight are very different from how you would earn them in the age of the Old Republic. So in that era of the Fall of the Jedi, you have obviously them attaining these ranks through experience, and it seems like to get promoted to these ranks in this era of the High Republic, it's not who you know, but it's
kind of
it's very different. I'd say like just you don't have to reach like
though. Loden says I'll just give you like whatever. I'll just put you up. To me, I was like, really? You can just evaluate it?
Well, that's not anything new because even Qui-Gon was like he's ready for the trials, and take him. So,
but no. Here's the thing. He said he's ready for the trials. Obi-Wan still had to pass those trials. To me, Loden made it sound like I'm just gonna put you up there. You make your point. I gotta grab my charger, or it's gonna die.
He did say like I want to put you up there, but he said that after the fact that he accomplished anything the council could provide as trials. So that's something that would counter that. As terms of them using these as ranks, like it's interesting because I do feel like the promotion and ranking system is very different from the other prequel era. Well, obviously, like the Old Republic ranking system, but you have the on terms of like these characters being in love, I don't think that the characters, like I'm not going to dismiss the fact that they've been
they're
like
definitely
abstinent.
In love.
Well,
they're definitely in love.
I'm not going to say like they're in love. I think they have strong feelings for each other, but I'm not going to say that they've been like abstinent. I think at one point, yes, they probably did maybe engage in some things, but again, I didn't get the sense that these Jedi were 100% against compassion and everything, because they throughout the whole book they talk about how Padawans have connections with each other and they kind of boost and preach and are okay with those strong connections. They even use Ivar to boost the connection between Jedi through the Force and everything. So it's obviously something that they do focus and hone in on, and that's again something that separates the Jedi, where these Jedi understand that temptation can lead to fear and can lead to the dark side, but it's not something that they ban outright like the Jedi of the Old Republic. They have, it's such a unique comparison because they have such very strong ideologies from both different eras, and you have Yoda who's a part of both of them, which I'm really excited to again see Yoda and that dynamic of what he's like 200 years prior to what he was in the Old Republic movies. So
well, the 2 points I wanted to bring up again with the master thing, when she said that she was bringing LeVar because this mission could help him make master, that to me again was like a very different way, as far as like that to me was like the who situation, as far as like, oh, if I bring him along on this mission and it goes well, he'll probably become master now. And it's just like, even if Avar does everything and that's not what happened, but just like it just makes it sound like, oh, if they come back and he gets an A+ on his report card from her, it's like, you know what, maybe he is ready. So that's where is one, and that's where you're right as far as them and their specifics, as far as, because we've talked about this before. I think it's very muddy, and I think canon, they need to figure that out, because in the books and Clone Wars and stuff, they always say it's like frowned upon, but then I feel like in the prequel movies, it's like you can't do this. You're not allowed to do this. You can't sleep. You can't. So that's where it's like I think they eventually, if they get into acolyte stuff, they gotta smooth that out. In my opinion, it's still like it's a no rule. Even
Mhm.
if you say it's frowned upon, it's still like no. But this is where even in this era, maybe if this is the frowned upon era, maybe some things happen, like a LeVar and Avar striking up a relationship, or that getting in the way where the Jedi Council goes, we can't have this happen again because look at what these two did, or look at what this led to. Because I don't know if it's going to happen much next book because they said they're going to separate. They got to go on different missions now. They're still going to communicate, but they're definitely, and when I say in love, I don't mean like they're getting on, but I just mean like they both like at the end they're both practically just waiting for one of them to say something because he's like, oh, I felt the sea in her, and then he turns away, and then
So
it's
like
like
the Obi-Wan Satine route, you're
yes,
saying? Okay.
100%, because then she's like, and Avar turned hoping he would say something like to that. So it's like that sort of, or I hate to say it, it's like Padme and Anakin in Attack of the Clones, where there's something going on, but they both don't want to take the leap. I think they're at this point. Will something happen? I feel like yes, with 3 books. With one, if it was just one book and maybe a sequel, it's like okay, maybe let's use it as a temptation. But I could see, a bunch of I could see either a bunch of Jedi dying, and that leads them getting on. Because I don't know, I just think that leads to good drama in a book of their getting it on, or it's secretly happening, and that's in the background, and other Jedi's are like, what's going on with these two? Like something's not right, and that could be to me an issue. That could literally be how that thing gets brought up of like, no, it's a strict thing. Like you're not allowed to have these emotions, especially for another Jedi, or one of them dies, and that helps progress like someone's like bloodlust to get
Mm.
Michonne Rowe or something like that. So it's like exactly like Satine. We never got to see it consummated, but like it was always there. So I think
Mhm.
there is definitely some sort of vibes happening there. I hope they fuck because I love when Jedi fuck. It's just great. Force stuff going on. Yoda's gonna be like, I don't like this, like I hope it happens. So that's why I'm interested in LeVar's storyline more than I am him, because like I said, I feel like he's kind of like a archetype of Mace Windu a little bit, but we'll see. I like you said, him getting that vision at the end was very interesting. I thought that was a perfect way to end the book too, because
Mhm.
it left me wanting more, which is crazy that book is only a month away. I thought it'd be a lot longer, but the fact
It
that
is, yeah.
yeah.
Jesus.
So we're getting that follow up right away, and that's like okay, I can't wait, especially now Claudia Gray. I cannot wait to see what she does. But I guess I would tend to agree with you that Bell was probably my favorite, and I liked him kind of getting over his fear. I like at the beginning when he's just like, I'm the opposite of Jedi. Like all I have is fear. Like I can't get past it all. And I was just like this poor guy. And like I said, at first I thought, oh, he could be annoying, but they did it well. I like the relationship that he would always strike up with people he saved, or like that little girl, or even like the animal they had. It just, I'm very interested to see what they do. I think he's going to be one of the last ones standing in these series and everything like that. And I'm trying to think if there's any other main characters, but no, I think we touched upon all the Jedi and everything like that.
Yeah, I think we touched upon all the Jedi. I can't think of really anything else.
I'll look at my notes here and double check. But yeah, I think I got most of it. When we take a let's see, I talked about the mind trick. I thought that was fun. So this was just like a little thing. Why do you think, as they say that LeVar and Avar practically start at the exact same time in the academy, why do you think she's a master and he's not?
Again, I think it's based on the things that you accomplish and your because the ranking system is very different. Where it's based on the Old Republic, I feel like it's based on your experience and how
Well, it's
much
not Old
Force
Republic
wisdom.
anymore. Remember, they changed
Well, I know,
that.
but that's just what I'm gonna call it because they call it in the movies
Mm,
the Old Republic, so I'm
don't
gonna
do
call it
well.
the Old Republic. So
Do they call it the Old Republic in the movies?
yeah,
Bastards! Should have never done that.
um, yeah. So you have where was I going with that? Yeah, you have it based on experience. I feel like at that time. So I would say in this, it's more or less. I don't know. It's based on experience through the Force and your wisdom and your insights you gain. So the more powerful Force user you become, I feel like they grant you the rank of Master and such. Whereas in this, I feel like it's just based on like maybe how many missions you do or something like that. Because there seems like a
Mm.
lot of Jedi Masters in the ranking system. When I looked, there was like uh, Jedi Padawan, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, Jedi Council Master, I think it was, and then you had like Jedi Grandmaster or something like that. So yeah. A lot of
Wow. Yeah.
ranks.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering because they talked about that and they kind of made it sound like not that he was like mad or anything, but just that she felt like it.
Pulling an Anakin. This is unfair. How can I be on the council and not be a
No, just
master?
it just the sense is like she's progressed further than he has. Even though that she started saying no, not anything towards her because he was like, oh, I'm gonna be in my best behavior because she took me on this mission. So I just found it interesting. I wonder if we'll get more in that in the future. And that's how I guess maybe we haven't mentioned, but the book ends with him becoming master now. So
Hmm.
he'll go off on his own. That's what they said to do, his own adventures. And
Well,
the only
he's.
other.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, what were you gonna
I
say?
was just gonna say because he was looking into how to use the Force. Cause there was an event that happened in the story, and I can't remember what, but it prompted him to go research more on how to use the Force for something else. Where she became the marshal or
Yes.
the leader of Starlight Beacon, right?
Yeah, because that was going to be Joro's job, but she's dead, so she is kind of headlining Starlight Beacon now. I think that's how they will intersect again in the future, as their missions will somehow interline. But yeah, she's going to be at the Beacon running shop there. So
Hmm.
the only thing I wanted to bring up as far as a line I really liked is I already forgot his name, Karis or Karis. What was his name?
Kasef.
Kosov. They're talking about in the middle of the book how the High Republic and the Jedi might be on them, and Kosov was like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait to bump into a Jedi. That's gonna be a great story. Kill a Jedi. I can't, that's gonna be such a big honor." And Marshall Roach is just like, just let us know in advance which Tempest will take your place after the Jedi kills you. It was so good, and just the continual part. And then later on the story when they refer back to when like they're talking about the Jedi coming, and Costa was just like, "Let's leave. Like, let's just bounce." And he's like, "But I thought you wanted to kill a Jedi." So he just had like such a he's such a spineless character. It was so good. But yeah, I like their little crew because he talked about like his little ex-girlfriend he had there that was like she didn't feel pretty, so she was like replacing herself with like animatronics and like robotics and stuff like that, which I caught me off guard because is that common in Star Wars? Because that felt more Blade Runner like cyberpunkish than Star Wars in my opinion. There's like like aesthetics to make yourself look better, like personal enhancements.
Well, I mean, we've seen it like in Star Wars. We've seen them get like prosthetic arms and stuff, obviously with Anakin and Luke.
Yeah,
So I mean,
true.
you could. It would only make sense to get that, but have it
This was
more
for sex
heightened.
appeal though. This wasn't for right? It was like to make her look prettier, but he just says she got colder.
I don't see why not. I mean, it definitely is probably not something we're used to in Star Wars, but again, it is. You got the technology. They're experimenting in the High Republic. Getting jiggy with it.
That's true. And his Wetbub died, right? In all
I
the
I
battles?
believe because
Damn.
they all died because the people from Iriadu, they stormed his bridge and they didn't even give him the chance to fess up. They just the senator that spoke
Right.
of earlier just popped his ass. So I do find it funny though how his people turned on him because Marshawn was just so in their heads and they were I think what was it like they had to act on it like a Kasef wanted to like flee or something like that. They're like, no, Marshawn says we have to stay here, and Kasef was like freaking out, like, how does Marshawn have control over my people and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And then when Costa was trying to break it down, he's like, well, either he wants us to live, so we should leave so we can help him in the battle further, or this is a trap and he wants us to die. Either way, whatever the scenario is, we should leave no matter what it is. And then he came in with the pass and like covered for him. But yeah, no, that senator was badass. She ended up just deciding to go on foot into the battle. She didn't stay back. She went. She killed Kosov herself
Hmm.
too.
Well, yeah,
That's
because they were like hunters, right? And I love how they even fessed up because Kasef was like, "Oh, I even did a little research, and they're one of those hunting planets."
yeah, yeah. Because when he was describing like they hold a grudge, they fight, they're known for poisoning. He's like, I really should have picked a different planet. He's just like, and that's the thing where it's like Marshawn was like this like puppet master, but also at the end of the day, Costa's whole story was about karma because he just like completely he went to the craps table too many times. He gambled way too many times. Like every time, like even then when he tried to make that bet for the 50 million and it went bad, then like a few chapters later he's like, well, what if I just left on my own? No one would notice. I could escape. I'd change my name and so. But then like he was just talking about how he could barely hold his blaster with his left hand because he lost his right hand. So it's like he was just destined to get whatever the ending that he got in this book. That was his destiny. It was so, oh, such a. But yeah, rest in peace to Wet Bub. Maybe my favorite Gungan. I was excited for like a Rambo Gungan who was maybe like a full on like blood warrior, But
I definitely really appreciate how, like, again, like, yeah, he was definitely a funny Gungan, but I love how they reminded you that he was a Gungan in the sense where he
big
when
shiny teeth, the bright teeth.
well
They'd always
well
describe him.
well when the Iriadu forces appeared, Wet Bub was just like, "Oh, I guess they're here because we blew up their planet." Like, just and Cossum is like, "You don't have to fucking not quote, but quote unquote, but
Whoa! He dropped
yeah,
the.
you
That's what he
don't
said in the book.
you don't have to repeat what we already know. Everyone in the bridge was there when it happened." Like, he's just so pissed.
And then he does that thing where it was like, okay, and he holds up both his hands, and then Gossip was like, he didn't know if he was holding up his hands just to mock him because he had two like normal
Yeah.
hands. Yeah, no, that
Oh,
was some good stuff there. But yeah, are you ready to give a final ranking on this book?
yeah, I think I am.
I will go first. I will give it an 8 out of 10 because the middle and back half was so strong. I really like the characters. I really like the world. Marshawn Rowe is, I think he's going to be around for this trilogy. Ask me at the end because right now it's like Kylo Ren and then everyone else is kind of spaced apart. Well, actually, no, I'd go Kylo Ren, Palpatine. And then, like I said, that third slot, I think he could easily take over. I'd probably put Vader up there. I don't know though. I might have to put Maul if I'm counting canon. I might have to put Maul over Vader because you know how I feel about Vader. I think they kind of botched him in the prequels, and I feel his motivations are all over the fucking place and all like none of it makes none of it makes sense. But I just feel like they like just even some people are like, well, Anakin and Darth Vader are two separate characters. Then why in every fucking comic book Darth Vader he's like Padme? Like no, they're not like it's such a lame excuse. So like he might be climbing the top three in Marshawn Rowe after this. So and that's the reason why, because I think I gave Master and Apprentice a 10. That still is, to me, one of my favorite Star Wars stories ever. This was a really, really good one. It was just that opening. I think if it wasn't for that opening, it'd be much higher. Like, not even much higher. 8 out of 10 is still pretty good. But I'm very excited specifically because the next book is Claudia Gray. I think I'd be excited overall because I really liked what we got. I'm excited for this world. I hope it's successful. I hope we could get video games in this world. I hope Acolyte and we even get more shows about this world. I like the setup. I like that it is 600 years from Skywalker, so we are separated. Yoda was just a mention in this book. I thought that was perfect. I'm excited to see him more. Like Taylor brought up about him being the man between like both worlds in a sense. So I think this was a great start, an 8 out of 10 for me. Taylor?
Yeah, I would probably go 8 out of 10 as well. I think that's yeah, it's a warranted rating. The story, again, part one was definitely not executed well. It was all over the
Mhm.
place, but again, they had to go down that road to get to where we are in part two and part three, which parts, of course, were just fantastic. I love them, and it just totally popped off in this era. We got to connect with the characters much more in depth. We got to see the Nihil just full swing, and we got to see that a little bit of that humorous dynamic, which I really appreciated and enjoyed. And Marshawn Rowe just became that villain that you don't want to deal with. He's just so tactical and insightful, and I love that in a villain. I mean, Thrawn is my guy, number one, always will be, but
Mhm.
Marshawn Rowe's definitely gone up there in terms of like just what he's capable of. It's scary and it's powerful. And then again, Jedi, I'm so happy that I have some new Jedi that I can get on board with because like Loden and Bell, both of them are just super fantastic characters, and I can't wait to see more of what's to come with them. But again, the tech, the space battles, the era, everything that they did in the second half of this book was just so bloody well done, and it has me excited. I'm so glad that the book turned around from that part one because
Yeah.
I was so nervous and I was really just getting kind of bummed out for what was going on. But again, like after that sixth chapter, that it gets in, and then you're at like 40 chapters into the book, and that ending, like last half an hour, is just fantastic. So
Mhm. And the other thing about Marshawn Rowe, like my last point is like I am happy he's alive, but I also feel like this they kind of do that in Star Wars, right? Every trilogy has its villain. Kylo Ren was that. Darth Vader was that. Palpatine, like you had Maul and Count Dooku, but Palpatine was the prequels villain. I think if this is a trilogy of books, you do need, because that was my word that they would just kill when the Nihil would persist. You do need a big bad, and I think Marchand Rowe they've set up well, and I'm happy that the trilogy or whatever, just the High Republic, I think era as far as when we look back on it, you'll have like, okay, he was the villain of this time, and I think that goes well with Star Wars. It's the same way as like MCU is different, but they had phases of like, oh, we're leading up to Loki, we're leading up to Ultron, we're leading up to Thanos. Star Wars is a different where it's not a lead up, but the villain's already there. But I think you kind of need that, and I think that's one thing that we talked about before, and many people have said is in prequels, maybe Count Dooku was a good character, but what if you would have kept Maul around a bit longer, And I think that kind of hurt the prequels a little bit, that, yeah, Palpatine was there, but he wasn't really in the first and second. He's just in the shadows. I think having someone like Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, those consistent villains throughout does help because, okay, we're investing, and that's why we have what I imagine is going to be a villain that's going to be around till the trilogy or maybe even past then, because like we said, we don't know the Acolyte. Maybe Martian Rowe is still around, or maybe he just escapes. Like I always like when they keep villains around, because if this era is successful, then I don't know, keep telling stories. So I don't know, we'll see. So yeah, we'll be back next month when we got lots of stuff dropping here with WandaVision and everything like that. But with this book will be the next one's Into the Light, or no, this one was Into Light. What is this one called?
The next one is,
or is this one Into the Dark?
No, this one's called Light of the Jedi, the one that we just read.
No, I mean like the next one, it's Into the Dark, I think, with Claudia Gray.
I think
that's that makes sense, because they're going to go in the dark, and then they're going to see this purple light, and I'm here, Jedi.
Yeah, Into the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
Gray. So, I mean, the cover looks like it has, like, different characters, so I'm curious to know what they're doing. Or, okay, because, yeah, the third one is called The Rising Storm, I believe. Oh, and I think
the storm.
I think that's, oh, yeah, because on here, the cover for this, you see, like, there's the Nihil, and then you see, I'm pretty sure that's Bell. Because Bell, yeah, he's got the green lightsaber, and he's got this green sash, which I love that aesthetic. It's so cool. Like,
for which book?
The Rising Storm. So this is the third one. I'll send it to you in chat there. But
yeah, I've seen the cover of Into the Dark. Well, the thing is with that is, so that's Bell, and then those two other Jedi we haven't met yet. I don't think, have we?
No.
Or is that the? No, the one on the left we might have. Was that the one that was on the planet with Bell and Loden? Because they said she had like white hair that was tendrils.
Yeah, maybe.
Her name was like.
She's the same. She's the same species as Adi Gallia from the prequel Phantom Menace.
But we haven't met that guy in the middle there, so that's interesting. The other thing is though, with Claudia Gray's book, I bet it could tie in, but I could see her main characters being two new characters, because I feel like she just kind of might want to do not her own thing, but might want to have some. I think you'll still see Belle, you'll still see Avar Chris and everything like that, but I could see her being like, hey, these are my, like a very similar like Master Apprentice style, like my main story is going to focus on these two characters, and then like maybe that's who this middle guy is, maybe that's who, like maybe he's one of the characters in that story and he survives that. So because it doesn't look like Lavar's there or Avar's there in this like they could be in there, but I mean the cover, they're not on it. But then again, maybe they just put these ones on the cover because those ones were on the cover for the first book.
Yeah,
it could just be simple as that. So, well, we'll be there. It's exciting, and yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this review. We hope if you read the book, you enjoy it. Please let us know if you have theories, if you know what this purple thing is, if you enjoyed it, if you didn't like us, let us know in the comments below on YouTube, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter as always. So, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening or watching. Next time you hear from us, it will not be boring, and may the Force be with you.
Always.